So White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt announced that the Associated Press has been banned from the Oval Office for not honoring the recent renaming of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. Take a look.
Voters do not agree with these despicable women on The View. They are wildly out of touch with the vast majority of Americans, and frankly, they should seek immediate help.
The mistake really is there's too much BS floating out there, and now it's out of our hands. There's no way to control it, so now they're saying they're going to control it. I want to see what they're going to do.
For weeks, The View mocked Karoline Leavitt's jaw-dropping $800 million lawsuit like it was a complete joke. The hosts rolled their eyes, laughed it off, and treated it like it was just another publicity grab from someone trying to get famous.
My team will review the applications and give credentials to new media applicants who meet our criteria and pass United States Secret Service requirements to enter the White House complex.
All right.
What'd she say?
She basically said that they were going to give unqualified
God, how boring.
unqualified
Can they get
people
somebody there who's
jobs.
not so
Behind
tedious?
the Table podcast needs to apply for White House credentials.
Oh, they'd love having Joy in that room.
Joy
So
can
I
go.
got a question. So wait a second. So in other words, instead of Bob Woodward, they want Kim Kardashian? What? I don't get it.
On air, they joked without restraint, making her sound like some attention-seeking sideshow act. But now, those same women are practically begging behind the scenes, pleading for it all to go away. How did everything flip so fast? What changed? The truth behind the scenes at ABC is messier than anyone expected, and it's only getting worse by the second. When it all started, the ladies on The View acted like they were untouchable. They brushed off Karoline's lawsuit like she was throwing a tantrum for clout. They didn't just dismiss her, they humiliated her. With smug looks and sarcastic tones, they mocked her on live television, laughing like it was the most ridiculous thing they'd ever heard. Joy Behar didn't hold back. She rolled her eyes and called it just another case of a conservative playing the victim. She spoke with such arrogance as if the whole thing was beneath her. Whoopi Goldberg sat back, grinning smugly, and shrugged. "Please," she said, "we've dealt with worse. This'll be forgotten in a week." Like it was nothing. Like Karoline didn't matter. Like the whole situation was just another bump in the road that they'd cruise over without a scratch.
To be unequivocally clear about that. And watching this clip, I couldn't help but think how ironic that Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar and the rest of the ladies on The View spend their time calling Republicans the conspiracy theorists. But they have been wrong about everything they have said over the last couple of years.
The mainstream media rushed to back them up. CNN, MSNBC, and other big names quickly chimed in, repeating the same message. The lawsuit was pointless, just a conservative's attempt to silence women, to stir controversy.
I don't understand what you're saying. You're saying about yourself that, hey, that's a terrible thing to be. It's not a terrible thing to be. That's why we fought. That's what we were fighting for, so that you could stand in that podium, so that Catherine Jean-Pierre could stand at that podium. So women of all kinds of colors and ilks, wherever they came from, whatever their belief system was, they had the opportunity to bust down that door.
Legal commentators even jumped on the bandwagon, claiming it was frivolous and had no chance in court. It was like the entire media ecosystem had decided this would blow over in a week.
The mistake really is there's too much BS floating out there, and now it's out of our hands. There's no way to control it, so now they're saying they're going to control it. I want to see what they're going to do. I want to see who they're going to invite into this, because quite honestly, I like when we're held to standards. I don't always like the way they do it, but we have to have ourselves together. We can't just say stuff in spite of what they tell you. We can't just spout stuff. So I want that for everybody. And if they're going to guarantee that they're at the briefing, then I'll be happy.
They didn't just oppose Karoline. They painted her as a joke. They dragged her background, mocked her past, and treated her as if she had no credibility whatsoever. But here's what they didn't know. Behind the scenes at ABC, no one was laughing. While the women on the show kept joking and making digs at Karoline, ABC's legal team was watching, and they were alarmed. They weren't chuckling. They weren't calm. They were in full-blown panic mode because they knew something the public didn't. Karoline's lawsuit wasn't empty noise. It was built on evidence, real documentation, witnesses, timelines, screenshots, internal memos, emails, private messages, things that couldn't just be swept under the rug. It was airtight, and they knew they were in trouble. An insider from ABC reportedly said, "This is not something we can just laugh off. There's real weight to this." That quote sent chills through the halls of the network. Suddenly, this wasn't a PR stunt anymore. This was real. The panic spread quickly, and the legal team issued a carefully worded statement, saying ABC was taking the matter seriously and handling it professionally. It was clearly damage control, but it couldn't hide what was happening behind closed doors. The network was terrified of what might come out if the case ever reached a courtroom. Because this wasn't just about one bad moment. If the lawsuit moved forward, it meant private conversations, off-air recordings, backstage audio, confidential emails, all of it could be revealed to the public. Executives at ABC freaked out. They started meeting in secret, divided between two extreme options. One group wanted to dig in and fight, believing they could crush Karoline in court. The other group? They were desperate to settle, to make it disappear quietly, to pay her off before things exploded any further. That group understood something the others didn't. Even if they won legally, they could still lose everything in the court of public opinion. Meanwhile, the ladies on The View remained totally clueless. They were still showing up on set, laughing, cracking jokes, thinking everything was fine.
So White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt announced that the Associated Press has been banned from the Oval Office for not honoring the recent renaming of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America.
They had no idea that ABC was considering settling behind their backs. One furious executive reportedly said, "They still think this is a joke, but we're already making moves without telling them." That line hit like a punch. Imagine being on national television, completely unaware that your own network is trying to clean up your mess before it becomes a catastrophe. The moment the hosts finally caught wind that ABC was considering settling with Karoline, chaos erupted. Whoopi Goldberg, the face of the show for years, couldn't believe what she was hearing. She had mocked Karoline nonstop, laughed in her face, and now the network was planning to give her money to make it go away? Behind closed doors, Whoopi exploded. "Are you kidding me? We're actually taking her seriously now?" she screamed. She felt betrayed. After everything she'd been through, scandals, criticism, backlash, she thought she was untouchable. Joy Behar wasn't any calmer. She stormed into her dressing room and slammed her makeup bag onto the counter, yelling, "We built this show! We made this network money!" Her voice was filled with rage. She was furious that ABC would even consider giving in. She wasn't going down without a fight, not over what she called a stupid lawsuit. She had always been bold, loud, and unapologetic, but this time it was personal. Even Sunny Hostin, normally the calm, composed one, looked shaken. As a former prosecutor, she could see where this was heading, and it scared her.
The problem that I have with it, though, is, she's saying that these people that are going to apply will meet their criteria. We understand that their criteria is woefully deficient and unserious. I think that their real problem in this election, one of the real problems among the many, is the misinformation and disinformation that was disseminated on social media by these influencers and by these podcasters. Why are they qualified to sit in the White House briefing room and tell America what is going on with the country? Traditionally, to become a White House correspondent or to be in that briefing room, you had to have a journalism degree. Yeah. You had to have qualifications. So I guess the rise of mediocrity is here to stay.
She had read the documents, she had seen the evidence, and she knew, deep down, that if this went to court, it wouldn't just be ABC on trial, it would be all of them. Every comment, every joke, every offhand remark could come back to haunt them. Sunny wasn't laughing anymore. She was worried, because this wasn't just a lawsuit anymore. It had become a battle for their reputations, and they were losing. Then came the public fallout, the moment that stunned viewers across the country. The View changed its tone. Overnight, everything shifted. Gone were the eye rolls and mocking laughter. Suddenly, Whoopi, Joy, and Sunny were singing a very different tune. The next episode opened with an uncomfortable energy. Whoopi looked downcast, shaking her head slowly. "I think we all need to take a step back," she said softly. "There's been too much hostility. This isn't good for anyone." It was surreal. Just weeks ago, she was brushing it all off. Now she was pleading for calm? Joy, who had once mocked Karoline's lawsuit as ridiculous.
She's probably been put in there because, according to Donald Trump, she's a 10. You know that's what it is.
I want to be clear, though, it's not her first job. It was her first press briefing.
Now sounded regretful. "I don't know why this has to go so far," she said carefully. "Can't we just sit down and talk like adults?" It was a full reversal. Sunny leaned forward and addressed the camera directly. "Karoline, if you're watching, maybe there's a way to resolve this without court," she said in a gentle tone. "We can find common ground. But let's not pretend this was about peace. This wasn't about healing. This was about survival." ABC's legal team had warned them, loud and clear. If this went to trial, everything would come out. The public wasn't buying the sudden kindness for a second, and social media erupted. The apology aired, and the internet went into absolute meltdown. People were stunned. Just weeks earlier, these same women had mocked Karoline relentlessly. And now, they were practically begging her to come to the table and talk things out. The hypocrisy hit like a freight train, and nobody was letting it slide. Comment sections lit up like wildfires. Thousands of people rushed to call them out, accusing the hosts of only changing their tune because they finally realized they were in serious trouble.
Voters do not agree with these despicable women on The View. They are wildly out of touch with the vast majority of Americans, and frankly, they should seek immediate help.
The backlash came fast and hard, and it wasn't just coming from critics. Even longtime viewers were stunned and disgusted. And then came the memes. Oh, the memes. One viral image showed a terrified-looking Whoopi Goldberg next to an older clip of her laughing hysterically at the lawsuit, captioned, "That aged well." Another showed Joy Behar, wide-eyed and frozen mid-sentence, with the words, "When you realize the cameras are still rolling." The contrast was ruthless and absolutely everywhere.
Lies, uttering insane diatribes, and generally behaving in an ugly, hate-filled manner. We marvel and mock the sheer shameless stupidity of the modern left daily. On this program, we've almost become desensitised to the insanity, but even I was taken aback, sickened by this demented diatribe.
The internet didn't hold back. Popular YouTubers jumped on the story instantly. Reaction videos popped up within hours, breaking down the host's so-called apology frame by frame. Every shift in tone, every forced smile, every panicked glance. It was all picked apart like a crime scene. No detail was too small, and no moment was spared. The View's official social media pages were flooded. Fans, critics, trolls, even people who didn't normally watch the show were suddenly united in dragging the hosts for their dramatic backpedal. They also got some legal notes, but they made jokes about it. Take a look.
Hot mess that they air in the mornings, called The View, had to issue not one, not two, not three, but 4 corrections, legal corrections, 4 legal notes. We only have 3 of them on camera, but look at this.
I have another legal note.
My God.
Both Trump and Pam Bondi have denied allegations of a quid pro quo. I have a legal note.
You want to take this one, Joy, or are you
Matt
good?
Gaetz has long denied all allegations and has not been charged with any crime.
That's true.
Also, another legal note, Pete Hegseth's lawyer said he paid the woman in 2023 to head off the threat of a baseless lawsuit. He has denied any wrongdoing.
Not to mention what they did at that debate, where once again, they tried to fact check only one side, and then when their fact checks got fact checked, they cowered. They cowered in fear. I mean, this is a pattern with them.
After all this, The View themselves uploaded an apology video. to clean some mess.
You know, when you're a certain age, you use words that you know from when you were a kid or you remember saying, and that's what I did today, and I shouldn't have. I should have thought about it a little longer before I said it, but I didn't. And I should have said cheated, and I used another word, and I'm really, really sorry.
Their apology video was ratioed into the ground. More dislikes than anything they'd ever posted. Even their usual supporters were silent. That was when the real damage became visible. Viewers started tuning out. Fast. Ratings nosedived. The audience didn't just shrink, it collapsed. ABC had a full-blown crisis on their hands. Advertisers panicked. Brands that had been loyal for years suddenly pulled their ads or paused their contracts. The financial fallout was real, and it hit hard. Inside ABC's boardrooms, the pressure was boiling. Executives were in damage control mode, scrambling to find a way to stop the bleeding. But here's the thing. Karoline Leavitt? She stayed completely silent. No interviews, no dramatic tweets, no grandstanding on podcasts, just pure, cold silence. And that silence, it was terrifying. Because while The View unraveled publicly, Karoline didn't flinch. She didn't need to say a word. She was calm, patient, watching it all unfold, knowing she had them right where she wanted them. The silence made her look even more powerful. It sent a message louder than any press conference ever could. The more The View begged, the more desperate they looked. And the more desperate they became, the stronger she appeared. She was letting the pressure build, letting them sweat. And the audience saw it all. Then it got worse, way worse. Internal sources at ABC started leaking information, and what came out was explosive. Executives were reportedly furious with the hosts, blaming them for escalating the situation with their on-air mockery.
It has nothing to do with a meritocracy. Woke is people doing extra stuff and putting people in places that are not qualified because of the color of their skin or whatever is between their legs. Whoopi, you don't know what you're talking about. And they say it with a straight face. Matter of fact, you the reason why, for the longest, women couldn't be in these positions. Imagine you being the press secretary. You know how silly you are? Then y'all got a show full of women that's silly. Y'all women make people reconsider, should women even be doing this? Karoline Leavitt give us life. Y'all fools make us want to turn a cornerback.
We told them to stop talking about it, one insider said, but they couldn't help themselves. And now, look where we are. The blame game had officially begun. And the tension inside the building? It was unbearable. Staffers who once idolized the hosts were now keeping their distance. The resentment was growing, and fast. Crew members started whispering about how some of the cast thought they were too big to fail. And now, those same hosts were dragging everyone down with them. One insider dropped a shocking statement. Honestly, I don't think The View is going to survive this. Behind the scenes, ABC was quietly exploring major changes. Executives were holding secret meetings, debating whether some of the hosts needed to be replaced, just to save the show. Imagine it, the iconic faces of The View being pushed out, not by choice, but because one lawsuit had brought the entire empire to the edge of collapse. It sounded impossible, until it didn't. And still. Karoline said nothing. She made no moves, took no interviews. She was like a storm waiting in silence, letting the damage grow, letting ABC eat itself alive. And the contrast couldn't have been more shocking. On one side, panic, chaos, finger-pointing. On the other, stillness, control, confidence. Then came the rumors. Every day, new stories dropped like bombs. Some claimed Whoopi was threatening to walk if ABC settled. Others said Joy had refused to come to set unless the tone of the show shifted. No one could confirm what was real, but everyone was talking. Gossip flooded the media, and viewers were hooked. And the more the hosts begged for resolution, the weaker they looked. The public had seen the mockery. They had seen the arrogance. And now they were watching the backpedaling play out in real time. The power dynamic had flipped, and Karoline held every card. Inside ABC, things were boiling over. The pressure was unbearable. Legal teams were scrambling. Executives were having screaming matches behind closed doors. We never should have let them talk about it on air, one senior insider reportedly snapped. Everyone was looking for someone to blame, anyone but themselves. The show's future was hanging by a thread. Viewers were gone, advertisers were walking away, and the lawsuit, it wasn't slowing down. Karoline's team wasn't backing off. They weren't accepting silence. They weren't taking settlement calls. She had gone completely quiet, and it was working. ABC was on the verge of collapse, and she hadn't said a single word publicly. Back on set, the atmosphere had turned ice cold. The women who once laughed together were now barely speaking between takes. The tension was so thick, people said it felt like walking into a war zone. Whoopi was furious that ABC would even consider paying Karoline a dime. Joy felt completely betrayed by her network, her team, maybe even herself. Sunny, normally so composed, looked visibly rattled. The legal reality had finally sunk in, and it was heavy. Then, just when it seemed like things couldn't spiral any further, another bombshell dropped. Insiders leaked that backstage audio existed, recordings of the hosts making cruel, mocking remarks about Karoline when the cameras weren't rolling. Private footage, off-the-cuff insults, conversations that were never meant to see the light of day, and suddenly, the internet exploded all over again. The leaked backstage audio was the final nail. Private clips of the hosts mocking Karoline in cruel, vulgar ways ignited a firestorm online. Hashtags exploded. People demanded accountability. The View was no longer just in hot water, it was drowning. ABC scrambled, holding an emergency late-night meeting. The decision? Settle. Quietly. Quickly. Just make it stop. But Karoline said no. She didn't want a payout. She didn't want silence. She wanted everything exposed, in court. Viewers were stunned. Who turns down hundreds of millions? Someone who already knows they've won. Karoline was calm, collected, and unstoppable. The hosts? Shattered, silent, broken. ABC tried to save face, but it was too late. Ratings crashed. Sponsors fled. Viewers tuned out forever. The empire had crumbled, and Karoline never had to raise her voice. In the end, the very women who laughed at her became the cautionary tale. The age of untouchable TV royalty? Over. This wasn't just a scandal. It was a reckoning. Thanks for watching. If you want to see more content like this, so hit that like button and don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and please make sure to check out these other videos you might like. See you guys in the next video. Till then, take care and goodbye.